Well, there we go. Hello, everybody, and welcome to season 2, episode 18 of Rift Happens. We're going to be using this episode to catch everybody up with what's happening in the 2022 season of Coach Rivals after we just had the 4th of July week off. We are coming back. We have all three tiers should be wrapping up their regular season play before we head into playoffs. So we're going to take today's episode, or this week's episode rather, to catch everybody up going into playoffs or the last week of the regular season, so you can successfully cheer on your favorite team or know who to look out for as we move into that final week. So season 2, episode 18, as you can see, I am flying solo today. Not really sure why that is, but we just are. So I'm prepared to do it. So let's knock this thing out and not belabor this episode anymore. So we're going to switch things up a little bit so we can see things a little bit better. There we go. All right. So tier 3 standings moving into the final week of the regular season. We have had all 5 weeks of tier 3 played out. We have Dude Where's My R sitting in first place at 5-0, followed by Emotional Damage at 3-2, the mid lane Runners at 2-3, and CC Does It at 0-5, still looking for their first win of the season. Speaking of tier 3, we do have our stat leaders and some brand new faces on this graphic. We're seeing Coach HL, sorry if I pronounced or mispronounced that, in the top lane, sporting a 5.87 CS per minute, a 15 CS differential at 10 minutes, and nearly 1.5 damage per gold. We have OMG, it's Mr. Fields making an appearance as well from Dude Where's My R with a 5.0 KDA, as well as having the best counter jungling stats out of tier 3 for week 5. Also sporting that CS differential. We have Lexi making his second week in a row appearance as the mid lane stat leader for tier 3. And Careless Wanderer and Mr. Fries hanging out in the bot lane, still leading those stats. Careless Wanderer topping 6 of the 7 stats that we track for bot laners, coming in top for KDA, kill participation, largest killing spree, damage share, CS per minute, and damage per gold. So I think we see a future tier 2 competitor there in Careless Wanderer. He's sandbagging right now in the tier 3 league. So I'm anticipating we're going to see him move up, possibly sub in for some tier 2 teams moving forward. All right. Before we leave out of tier 3, we do want to talk about some pick ban stats for them. They have no bans in tier 3. It's just pick stats. But you can see the 4 champions topping the most pick is Garen, Lux, and then Tristana and Misfortune are holding it down. So Garen being picked 60% of the times. We've had some matches where it's Garen versus Garen, if I remember correctly, in tier 3. So Garen, a very popular top lane pick with our tier 3 coaches. Lux showing up as well. Obviously, a flex pick can be played mid, can be played support. So very popular there. And then Tristana and Misfortune. Tristana also can be flexed around, possibly played in the mid lane, but I think those two are exclusively being played in the bot lane AD carry position. Highest win rate, though, we do have several champions that are sitting at 100% win rate. However, I don't showcase all of them because they have about a 10% pick rate. So what I did do was narrow it down to which champions are picked at a pretty frequent amount and have a decent win rate as well. So we have Lux there. Of course, we talked about Lux having a 50% pick rate, but Lux is also sitting at a 70% win rate. So if you want to win in tier 3, you pick Lux. If you want a really solid AD carry that's going to give you the best chance of winning, look at Misfortune, 66.67% win rate and a 45% pick rate. And then rounding things off, we have a Mumu, which is most likely a jungle pick, at a 62.6% win rate at a 40% pick rate. So really cool to see the progression in tier 3 and how their champion selections are are developing throughout the season, but this is where it ends up right now after 5 weeks of play. These are your most picked and your highest win rate. Moving on to tier 2, here are our standings. Now, this is only after 4.5 weeks of play, so we should have 3 matches coming up this Thursday. This Wednesday, rather, the 13th. Valhalla Back is sitting in first place at 4-1. Poro Snacks coming in right behind them at 3-1. There's kind of a you can't really declare a first place yet because Poro Snacks hasn't played their 5th match yet. So technically, I guess we could say it's a tie for first between Valhalla Back and Poro Snacks. But what I typically do is give the nod to whoever's played more matches. So you see the same thing on the opposite side of the screen between Triforce Tryhards and Legends of the Rift. They're both sitting at 1 win, but Triforce Tryhards has played an extra game, so I have them sitting at 3rd, and then Legends of the Rift coming in 4th at 1-3. So we should have 3 matches this Wednesday in Tier 2 that should see Poro Snacks and Legends of the Rift both playing 2 matches. So we should see Poro Snacks versus Triforce Tryhards, as well as versus Legends of the Rift. And then we'll also have Legends of the Rift versus Valhalla Back. So those should be your 3 matches coming up this Wednesday, unless we're having some more rescheduling issues coming up. But Tier 2 standings, so glad to see those shaping up. We have some new faces as well in our Tier 2 stat leaders. 2 faces from Legends of the Rift, 2 of our coaches there, Axion First and Bulldog Mentor, making their appearance on the stat leader sheet. We'll get to them in just a second. In the top lane, we have Coach Dubs, again, from Valhalla Back, with leading in KDA kill participation, solo kills, as well as damage per gold out of all top laners. Shifting our focus down to the bot lane of Triforce Tryhards, still holding it down. Merlin's made many appearances here on our stat leader sheet, but he is leading the 4th week of play in killing sprees for 80 carries, damage percentage, CS per minute, and CS differential. For Alege is at leading kill participation, wards placed, and just vision score per minute, along with vision differential. So talking about Valhalla Back and then Triforce Tryhards, after that, we're going to shift our focus to Legends of the Rift. So they did have a sub fill in for them last week, and that saw Axion First moving from the top lane into the jungle. I believe he played Volibear. We had Bulldog Mentor playing mid again, I think for the 3rd week in a row, but they absolutely demolished the stats for week 4. Axion First coming in and holding down 6 out of the 7 stats for jungle, and Bulldog Mentor coming in and taking 5 out of the 7. So really strong performance from that mid-jungle duo out of Legends of the Rift. I believe that their full roster is back this Wednesday, so it's interesting to see. It's going to be interesting to see how they move forward as a team. Are they going to keep Axion First in the jungle? Are they going to move Lucky B212 up to the top lane? Are we going to go back to the way things were? It is the last week of regular season, and as most of you know, the regular season doesn't really matter other than playoff seeding. So if you want to keep experimenting and trying something different, then the regular season is definitely the place to do that before you move into playoffs. But again, congratulations to our Tier 2 stat leaders. This is only for the 4th week of play that we have completed. Let's talk about the pick ban for Tier 2. So this looks a lot different from Tier 3. Although we do see the Garen and the Lux make an appearance in most picked, they are joined by Sejuani and Zyra. Sejuani coming in as the most picked, and I would say one of the higher win rates out of any of the champions in Tier 2. Sejuani is being picked not only in the top lane, but also in the jungle. So you have Black Beetle 13, I believe, has taken Sejuani to the top lane multiple times, and Piper Maru from Valhalla Back has been taking Sejuani into the jungle. So when they are in a match together, that definitely is a contested pick, but it's possible each week, as long as Valhalla Back and I believe Black Beetle's on Triforce Tryhards, as long as those teams aren't playing each other, it's likely to see 2 Sejuani picks in one night. So that's why we have that high pick rate for that particular champion. Garen and Lux coming through, we already talked about. Basically, very easy champions to pick up and learn. We have a lot of coaches that are playing in new roles for the summer, a role that they're not typically playing in. And so when you navigate or migrate over to a brand new role, it's probably good to have an easy champion to play. These are definitely easy champions. Zyra, definitely a contested pick in tier 2. The supports like to bring her out. For Lege plays it. Loki Doki does. I'm not. I think Cleaner 556 may have played it 1 week, and I'm not sure about Coach Mustang. I think Coach Mustang's been sticking to Carmen Velkaz. There may have been one Zyra game from her, but I'm not certain. Over in most band, we have 6 champions all tied for most bands. That is Diana, Tristana, Mordekaiser, Shyvana, Tahm Kench, and Lilia. So, of course, Shyvana and Lilia, those numbers are up, as well as Diana. Those are all targeted towards Poro Snacks for the most part. Shyvana and Lilia targeting Swoko, definitely known for those 2 junglers. And then the Diana from Jubilus's performance in week 1, that's always going to be drawing a ban. But we've also seen, I believe, Diana in from some other teams have banned towards those. Tristana towards Big Bad Hand, and I think we've seen some Tristana bans towards Blue Sai, part of Valhalla back. And then Mordekaiser obviously coming in as a really, really strong pick. We're actually seeing Mordekaiser as a strong pick in tier 1 as well. So we're going to see some similarities between these 2 teams as we get, or these 2 tiers rather, as we get higher into the tiers. We get into tier 1, we'll see where Mordekaiser lands, but Mordekaiser definitely a strong pick. We're starting to see some Darius played into Mordekaiser. So we'll see how teams adapt to this Darius that could potentially be coming through as a Mordekaiser counter. But we'll see how that pans out moving forward. Now, if you missed the tier 2 action 2 weeks ago, not this past Wednesday, but the previous Wednesday, this is what I'm dubbing our match of the week for week 4. We had Legends of the Rift taking on Triforce Tryhards. Both of these teams had a sub come in. We had Lucky B212 had I Am Athlete come in and sub 4, and then we had a little bit of a role swap with Axion first going into the jungle for Legends of the Rift and I Am Athlete going into the top lane. And then for Triforce Tryhards, we did have Pac-Man Monarch was out for that week, so they brought in Alexi from tier 3, who we saw on our tier 3 mid lane stat leaders, brought him in and moved Jubulus up into the jungle. So not only did both of these teams have a sub, but both of them had role swaps going on. And one of the reasons why we're selecting this as our match of the week is because it was Legends of the Rift first win of the 2022 season, and it was quite a dominant win. You can see it was a 32-minute match, but a 22-7 kill line there, and you can see why Bulldog Mentor and Axion First are showing up on that stat leader graphic. Bulldog Mentor coming in 7-1-6, and Axion First at 5-1-10. Bulldog Mentor on the Vex, 25% of the team's damage. But we also had a little bit of a wrinkle coming out of Legends of the Rift in that bot lane. They locked in the Senna support and the Lux AP carry in the bot lane. So you don't see that very often. So it could be something that maybe they had, something sneaky they've been working on over the past couple of weeks and say, all right, let's pull the trigger, let's bring it out. And they did, and it did really, really well. You can see the Lux do a lot of damage, even 3-1-8. So a great KDA there as well. Merlin getting his Jhin that he really likes to play. And had a tough time in that lane. CS'd but was not able to get the damage. They could always keep the Jhin at arm's length, so be able to rain down that poke damage. But really cool to see both of these tier 3 subs come into this game and do really, really well. Athlete bringing in the Jax to the top lane, going 7-2-3, and then Lexi bringing out the Ahri, finishing at a 1-3-2 KDA. CS was right up there with Bulldog Mentor's Vex, but Either way, not enough to get the win, but it was still really, really cool to see both of those subs come in and do really, really well. So again, really, really cool to see that. Good to see Mr. Hernandez teaches there in chat. So take a look at the gold graph there. We do see that blue side. Once they got the lead, they held on to it. There was a little bit of a dip at the 15-minute mark for Legends of the Rift, but after that, they powered through and just burnt through that game and did not let go of the lead. You can see how steep that mountain is on the gold advantage. And for damage dealt, taking a look, and you can see how much damage they were putting out. Not only the jungle and or not only the mid lane and the AP carry, who you would expect to do a lot of damage, but we also have the Chem Tank Volibear coming through with the Nashor's Tooth right up there. So 4 out of the 5 members of Legends of the Rift were really trying to match each other back and forth with that damage. So just outputting a ton of damage. 4 members of Legends of the Rift out damaged the highest damage member of Triforce Tryhard. So all a fantastic performance from Legends of the Rift. It was really cool to see them not only with the sub, but also with the role swap and picking up the win, their first win of CR 2022. Be interested to see how they take this trajectory moving into this Wednesday night, where they have 2 matches. They have one versus Poro Snacks, and they have another versus Valhalla Back. And again, those are the 2 teams sitting at the top of the standings in Tier 2. So Legends of the Rift looking to ride the success off of this Triforce Tryhards match to finish out their second round robin strong. So we'll see how they do that. That is this Wednesday. Finishing up Tier 2, we're going to move into Tier 1. Here are our standings for Tier 1. All 5 weeks of play have gone through for Tier 1. Here are your standings moving into the final week of the regular season. We have Team Let Us Win sitting in sole possession of first place at 4-1. Team Eclipse coming in second place at 3-2. Straight out of Grompton at 2-3. And Bards of a Feather at 1-4. All of these teams, as you can see in chat, this is neck and neck, right? Really, it's anybody's. Well, I say anybody's. We could have a lot of shakeups this week. It's not anybody's chance to get first, but we could see some shakeups there. We could end the season with a tie for first place if Team Eclipse grabs a win and Let Us Win loses, right? Straight out of Grompton can even move into a tie for second place with Team Eclipse. We could see Bards of a Feather go into a tie for third at the end of the season. So a lot of things could happen here in this final week of Tier 1 as we move into the playoffs. And again, this does determine playoff seeding. So ultimately, everybody makes playoffs, but your playoff seeding is going to be determined by your regular season record. Taking a look at our stat leaders for Tier 1, this is only for the 5th week of play. This is not cumulative stats that have gone through all 5 weeks. This is just the 1 week of play. So for week 5, we do have Pathfinder coming in as the stat leader in the top lane, leading the top lane in solo kills, damage percentage, and the CS differential at 10. In the jungle, for Straight Out of Grompton, we have Dose, leading 6 of the 7 stats. So you can see he's really dominating jungle stats for week 5. KDA, kill participation, counter jungling, damage percentage, CS per minute, as well as the CSD. We had a role swap for Bards of a Feather. We had Sones go to support and Ched move from support into mid lane, and it was really cool to see both of those players show up on the stat leaders graphic. I think we've seen Sones every single week on the stat leaders graphic, but he's been in mid lane, so now he's showing that he can do it in support too. So let's just put Sones everywhere on the map. So I say this Thursday, let's put him bot lane, and we'll see what happens. See if he can be a stat leader then. Either way, really cool to see Bards of a Feather have 2 members in tier 1 stat leaders. And then Ginga Riffith coming in as our bot lane stat leader for Straight Outta Grompton. Dethrones Decisions, who's been sitting there for a long time. We saw Happily Zerg show up there 1 week as well. But this, I believe, is Ginga Riffith's first appearance in the stat leader sheet for bot lane, coming in with a 24 KDA. That is absolutely massive. A 72.73% kill participation, as well as a 12 kill killing spree. So Ginga Riffith had a monster performance. We're going to take a look at it here in just a minute. That is, I believe, what's been highlighted as our match of the week for tier 1. Before we get into that, though, I do want to talk about our pick bans real quick from tier 1. This is through 5 weeks of play. So after a full 5 weeks, these are the champions sitting at the top. We do have Thresh, Ornn, and Set as our most picked champions in tier 1. Thresh at a 40% pick rate, Ornn at a 50% pick rate, and Set at a 30% pick rate. But we do have Set is at a 100% win rate. So he's only picked 30% of the time, but he wins every single time that he's picked. So tier 1 players, let's see if we can keep is it the Pit Boss? Is that his flavor text there, his subtitle? But let's see if we can keep his 100% win rate going. We have Ornn coming through, a pick that's been chosen by not only like Fixing Mantella, but I believe we've seen English Teacher play it as well. Drake Prime's been playing the Ornn. So Ornn has kind of made his way through every single team, I believe, that has played Ornn. If I remember correctly, some tier 1 players. I think, yes, a sub did win on Set. We do have and then Thresh coming through. That is Sups9 picking Thresh quite a lot with that 40% pick rate. But our most banned for tier 1 does change a little bit. We do have the Mordekaiser being one of the most banned champions, as we saw in tier 2, but we're also seeing Veigar make an appearance. So Mordekaiser's at a 60% ban rate. Veigar's at a 50% ban rate. And then we have a handful of champions at 40% ban rate. That is going to be Wukong, Senna, Set, Viego, and Fizz. Only one player that I know of in tier 1 plays Fizz, and that's Bullet Games. And so Fizz is banned quite a bit. Wukong has been banned, I think, ever since Will Win played it in the very first week of tier 1. So people don't want to see that again. A Smooth Criminal has been playing a lot of Veigar. I think people are coming around to ban out Veigar to put a Smooth Criminal on somebody else. And of course, Viego being banned because if you're playing against someone who has a champion name in their summoner name, then you might as well ban that champion. So we have Clown Viego showing up in tier 1. Of course, Viego is going to get banned. Expect no less. So after we've covered our pick ban stats, let's talk about our match of the week. As I alluded to earlier, Ginga Riffith had a monster game. He's been spamming Zeri. We've been seeing it in the Coach Rivals Discord. I think he's posted some highlights in there. And I was wondering when we were going to be able to see the Zeri because I don't believe it's been banned. So Zeri was picked up by Ginga Riffith 2 weeks ago on Thursday night in tier 1. And this was Straight Outta Grompton taking on Team Eclipse. Straight Outta Grompton pulling out the win. Team Eclipse was looking after the season started. Straight Outta Grompton started a little slow, ended up going through a couple of role swaps as well, fumbled a little bit, and then ended up getting one really solid win, and then this other one here versus Team Eclipse, which is a really good win for them because of how dominant Team Eclipse has been in some of their wins, and for Straight Outta Grompton to be just as dominant in beating them. You take a look at the Team Gold advantage over there on your bottom left-hand side of your screen. We can see that once they got the lead at about the 7-minute mark, they didn't let it go. If we looked back at that tier 2 match, you could see a dip in the gold. Maybe about the 15-minute mark, there was a kind of a dip where the enemy team had maybe a couple of shutdowns come through. Not here in Tier 1, not for Straight Outta Grompton. They actually got that lead and held on to it the entire way through. And it was through basic perfect KDA games from their jungle, their mid, and their bot laner. Clown Viego Dose coming in at 13-0-2. Key at 4-0-16, and then Gingariffith at 12-0-12. So 3 players out of Straight Outta Grompton had a perfect KDA, finishing up their 5th week of play versus Team Eclipse. So it was really good to see that. We did see Drake Prime in the top lane, holding things down on the Ornn into Pathfinder, who was breaking out the Darius. But something that's really, really, I think, important to note here is they did give Doze the Viego, right? Viego is typically banned. The Viego got through, the Zeri got through, and these are 2 really powerful picks for both of these players. They've shown that they really want to play these champions. They were able to get their hands on the champions, and they had quite a performance there. Taking a look at the damage charts, you do see Viego and Zeri topping the damage. They're pretty much neck and neck. I think Viego has the edge of having the most damage in the game, followed up by the Zeri. I beat her by about 400 damage. It's not much. On the other side, we did see the Rammus come through from Brewitt again. Brewitt's been showing Ivern and Nunu, and then Rammus. This is the 2nd game of Rammus. The first time he played Rammus, it was into Bards of a Feather. Run the Kim Tank Rammus, just running down the AD carry. And the Zeri is a little more slippery, right? The Zeri can hop over the walls. I believe last time the Rammus was into a Xayah. Once the Xayah burns the ult, she's a little more vulnerable, but Zeri can go over the walls with her E. So it makes it, and has the movement speed and really can probably kite out the Rammus a little bit more. So I think the Rammus had a probably difficult time trying to stick to the Zeri there. But either way, it was a fantastic match for Straight Outta Grompton. Glad they were able to pull that off and get their 2nd win of the season. So congratulations to Straight Outta Grompton as they move into their final week of the regular season. And before we go, I tell you, this is going to be a short one, just catching everybody up. We do have our listener responses this week. We're going to read through these real quick. Thank you all for participating. Our question this week for all of our coaches was, if you could have any champion receive a skin with your likeness, which one would it be and why? If you could have any champion in the game receive a skin with your likeness, what champion would it be and why? We did get some responses here. We got 5 responses. So we have Key out of New Mexico says that he would love Heimerdinger to receive a skin with his own likeness. He says, I have the hair to match. And if you don't know, or if you don't believe, if it's my understanding that Key will be in the caster booth this Wednesday night for Tier 2. So if you want to see if Key's hairstyle matches Heimerdinger, tune in this Wednesday night for some Tier 2 action. We should have Key in the booth, and we'll see. We'll see if that hair really does match. Our next response comes from Ronnie B. out of Houston, Texas. It says, Kled is the easy choice. Dude gets to ride an invincible lizard into battle. Plus, he has one of the only curse words in League of Legends, so it fits. So I don't know if he's saying that if Ronnie's saying that he himself has a potty mouth, and so his likeness needs to be on a champion that also has a potty mouth. But yeah, so we've got Pac-Man Monarch wanting to be made into Kled onto the Rift. Next, we have Blue Sai out of Arkansas. One of our Tier 2 players says, Graves says, because he looks the best in glasses. Blue Sai, one of our glasses-wearing players, says, though he needs to be reworked so I can get my bot lane main champion back. Yeah, so Graves, for those of you that haven't been playing League of Legends for a long time. Graves was played in the bot lane way back in the day before we had a rework. So Blueseye wishing Graves would not only go back to the bot lane, but wants to have his likeness as a Graves skin and bringing the glasses back to Graves. Our next response is coming from Mr. Hernandez Teaches, also out of Texas. This is out of San Antonio. He says Ornn would be his champion that he would like to have his likeness put on. Says it'll look a lot like normal Ornn, but every time he builds an item for an ally, every item icon is just my face. So the ornaments would be changed to be Mr. Hernandez Teaches face. That would turn League of Legends into a horror game. That's nightmare fuel for sure. Any item. So you have teammates requesting, please don't update or upgrade my item, please. And then our final response is coming from Master Blaster out of Mississippi. He says he would like Blitzcrank to receive a skin with his likeness. He says, I relate to only sprinting 5 seconds at a time before slowing down and taking a break. So Blitzcrank would be Master Blaster's champion of choice to receive a skin with his likeness. I like it. I started to feel that way myself. As I'm getting older, I have to take breaks. I get winded. In fact, I have a smartwatch that tracks my activity, and if I'm not active long enough, then it'll give me a message, and it says you should get up and move around a little bit. But what it also does is if I've been sitting for a while and then I get up and start moving around, it gives me a little message that says, congratulations, you're being active, keep it up. And I was working at the computer all day, and I picked my hand up to scratch my ear, and my watch thought that I was being active. So if that gives you any sort of indication of how inactive I am, just scratching my ear makes my watch think that I'm doing something more than what I normally do. So a little discouraging on that front, but it is what it is. That's what happens when you get older. So that is it for season 2, episode 18. I think we came in right at 30 minutes. So I want to thank you all for hanging out with me for a little bit. Now you're all caught up for what's going to be going on for the final week of the regular season of CR 2022. I'm going to go through the matches again that we're going to be seeing this week. Tomorrow night, that is Tuesday night, we do have Tier 3 action, though that is not streamed. But if you have some players on these teams, be sure to send them a message wishing them good luck. We have Dude Where's My R taking on Emotional Damage, and we have the mid lane runners taking on CC Does It. In Tier 2 action, this is where we do have 3 games being played, unless something has changed and I'm not aware of it. But we should have Legends of the Rift taking on Poro Snacks. Legends of the Rift also taking on Valhalla Back. Poro Snacks taking on Triforce Tryhard. So again, 2 matches for both Legends of the Rift and Poro Snacks. So we'll, unless something's changed and I'm unaware, we should have 3 matches on Wednesday night in our Tier 2. And then to wrap up regular season of Tier 1, we will have 2 matches. This is Thursday. We will have Straight Outta Grompton taking on Bards of a Feather and Team Eclipse taking on Let Us Win. So what a really, really cool storyline. A lot of potential for ties in Tier 1. If Bards of a Feather is able to beat Straight Outta Grompton, we're going to have they're going to end the regular season tied. And if Team Eclipse beats Let Us Win, we will have a 2-way tie for first as well. So we could have a tie for first and a tie for third. So if you're a fan of drama, conflict of interest jersey. If you're a fan of drama, then you're rooting for Bards of a Feather and Team Eclipse. Those are the 2 teams you're rooting for, because then we're going to have a tie for first and a tie for third. So bring on the ties. I don't even know if we've thought about tiebreakers. I don't know if we're just going to coin flip. Who knows? That's up to the tournament organizers to figure all that stuff out. But I like some ties at the end of the season. Makes things really interesting. Yeah, so be sure to check out. There are 2 tiers that will be streamed: tier 2 on Wednesday night and tier 1 on Thursday night. That is going to do it for us here for Rift Happens Season 2, Episode 18. We'll see you guys probably in the caster booth on Thursday night. If not, we'll catch you next week.